Okay guys, so we're going to continue talking about percents. This video we're going to be talking about percents and fractions, percent of a number, and a couple of other things. So when it comes to percents and fractions, to convert a percent to a fraction, you show the percent as a ratio with a denominator of 100. And if your fraction has a decimal in it, multiply the second term of the ratio by 10. So what does this mean? Well, let's say in our problem, we have 25%, and we want to express it as a fraction. Well, we go 25 over 100. So we're expressing this right now as a fraction. But this can be reduced. I can divide 25 by 25, and I can divide 100 by 25. And in that case, I can reduce my fraction to 1/4. And if I divide 1 by 4, I'm still going to end up getting 25% in the end. But that's only if we have a number that's not a decimal. What happens if we have a decimal number? So what happens if we have something like, let's say we have 12.5%? Well, I could have 12.5 over 100. But on some calculators, your fraction button, which is written like this, so it's written as A, B, C, won't work with percentages, won't work with decimals. So what you need to do is, if your fraction has a decimal in it, multiply the second terms of the ratio by 10. So I would multiply 12.5 by 10, 100 by 10. Whatever you do to the numerator, you have to do to the denominator, which would give me 125 over 1,000. Now, if I wanted to reduce that, I could. Okay, so I could go, well, I can divide 125 by 125 and 1,000 by 125, and that would give me 1 over 8, in which case I have turned my percentage into a fraction. Now what happens if I want to convert a fraction? So if I want to convert a fraction to a percent, well, I would go and try and figure out what I would need to do. So let's say I have 2 over 5. Well, what I need to do is I need to find an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 100. So I need to figure out what times 5 will give me 100. So I know that if I were to go and multiply 5 times 20, I would end up with 100. And whatever I do to the denominator, I also have to do to the numerator. And 20 times 2 would give me 40. And 40 over 100 can be written as 40%. So really all I'm trying to do is, if I have a fraction, I have to try and figure out what I need to multiply the number by to get my denominator to be 100. So that's sort of what we're doing if we're trying to convert the fraction to a percent. Or what we can do, same idea, is my other option. So I can go and take my my fraction. So let's say I have 17 over 40 as my fraction. We can divide the numerator by the denominator to write it as a decimal. So 17 divided by 40 would give me 0.425%. 0.25, sorry. 0.425 as a decimal number. And we express this decimal number as a percent. So if I wanted to express this as a percent, I would take 0.425, multiply it by 100, and it would give me 42.5%. That's when you're dealing with percents and fractions. But there are other things that we deal with too. Let's say we're trying to find the percent of a number. just a specific number. So let's say we have an item. So we have an item that's worth $60. And it's reduced by 15%. So I need to figure out what it's worth. So I need to figure out how much is my 15% rebate. So I can do it a couple of ways. I can go and be like, alright, well, I got $60, so that's how much my item costs. And I can multiply it by 15%. And 60 times 15% will give me $9. So I can do it that way. I can also go and be like, well, 15% is the same thing as 50 out of 100. So I could go and write it as 60 times 15 over 100. And it'll also give me $9. And then even if that's not working, I can go and say, well, I could also do it as a decimal. So I can take 60 times 0.15 as a decimal, and that'll tell me that I'll save $9. So that's one way I can do it. Now all this $9 is telling me is that I'm getting $9 off my $60. So if I have a $60 item and my rebate is $9, all that this is telling me is that I'm saving $9 on the whole thing. That's it. So it's telling me that the cost of my item after this rebate is $51. The other option that you can do is what we've seen before. We can find the missing term in the proportion. So we can go and be like, okay, well, 15% is the same thing as 15 over 100, and that's equal to the full price, 100% and the full price are the same, over x. And I can cross multiply. So if I go 60, so if I say 60 times 15 divided by 100, it'll give me $9. So these are all different ways that you can go and figure out the percent of a number. Now, what if I want to try and figure out finding the 100%? So finding 100%. What do I need to do? What does that mean? Well, to figure out what 100% of something is, we need to sort of solve the problem. So we're going to come up with an example. So let's say we have a 12% rebate. So 12% off means that we save $300 on the purchase of a TV. How do I find the regular price? So how do I find how much that TV costs before the rebate? Because I don't know what the full price is, all I know is the rebate. Well, what I would do is the same thing we did before. I would set it up as a proportion and find the missing number. So right here I know I have a 12% rebate. And a 12% rebate is the same thing as 12 over 100. And I know that that 12% means I get a savings of $300. But what I don't know is how much that television cost originally. So I can do it a couple of ways. I can go, well, 300 times, I can say that my x, my unknown, is equal to 300 times 100, so I'm cross-multiplying and then dividing, times 100 divided by 12. And that'll give me $2,500. So I just found the original price of the television. So that is really the easiest way that we can do that. The other thing that you can do if you want is you can go and find the switch factor, which we've talked about before. So let's go and say I have the same thing right here. 12 equals 300. And I don't know. Well, what number times 12 would give me 300? Well, if I multiply 12 by 25, it'll give me 300, and whatever I do to the numerator, I do to the denominator. So 100 times 25 will give me 2,500. So that's the other way that you can do it. So this is when you're trying to find the price of an item, and when you're trying to find the 100%, so dealing with rebates or saving money. So I hope this video was helpful. I'll be posting another one for you guys soon. If you have any questions, you can always come talk to me. And that's it. So hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you in class.